Welcome to Echoes Untold, the channel where we bring to life the forgotten stories of history, the moments that whisper from the past, waiting to be heard. Today, we dive into one of the Royal Navy's most haunting submarine disasters, the sinking of HMS K5 in 1921. This was no ordinary accident. It was part of a disturbing pattern involving a deeply flawed class of submarines, plagued with mechanical failures and tragic miscalculations. What went wrong? Why did K5 and her 57 crew members vanish without a trace? And what can we learn from this forgotten chapter in naval history? Join us as we explore the untold story of HMS K5, a disaster that still raises questions over a century later. Before we begin, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Echoes Untold, so you never miss another story where history whispers, and we listen. To understand the tragic fate of HMS K5, we need to go back to the First World War. The British Royal Navy, always seeking an edge in naval warfare, wanted a new class of submarine that could keep up with battleships. The result was the K-class, one of the most ambitious but ultimately disastrous submarine designs in history. These submarines were different from any other. Unlike traditional diesel-electric subs, the K-class used steam turbines. This gave them incredible speed for their time, over 24 knots on the surface, nearly twice as fast as other submarines. However, this came at a terrible cost. The design was riddled with flaws. Size and weight: the K-class submarines were over 330 feet long, massive compared to most subs of their era. Their weight made them cumbersome and difficult to control. Complicated systems, operating both steam and electric propulsion, meant there were more chances for catastrophic failure. Diving issues: because of their large funnels for steam exhaust, they had to seal off openings before diving, which made them slower and more accident-prone. Poor visibility and maneuverability: the subs struggled with navigation, leading to several collisions, some even within their own fleet. Due to these flaws, the K-class submarines earned a reputation as killer-class subs, not because they were deadly to the enemy, but because they were deadly to their own crews. Launched in 1916, HMS K5 was one of the later K-class submarines. Like her sister ships, she was built for high-speed underwater operations but was prone to technical failures. By 1921, K5 had already served through the final years of World War I without major incidents, but tensions remained high about the safety of K-class submarines. Her final voyage began on January 19, 1921. HMS K5 was part of a fleet heading from Portsmouth to the Bay of Biscay, where a large-scale naval exercise was planned. The operation involved multiple K-class submarines, as well as several Royal Navy battleships and destroyers. On the morning of January 20th, the submarines were ordered to conduct a standard dive maneuver. It should have been routine, but it wasn't. At approximately 11 a.m., HMS K5 signaled that she was beginning her dive. This was the last communication ever received from the submarine. Unlike modern submarines, which have advanced communication and tracking, K-class subs had limited ways to signal distress. As time passed, the fleet became increasingly concerned. The submarines were expected to surface after their exercise, but K5 never reappeared. Radio calls went unanswered. There was no sign of the vessel. The Royal Navy quickly launched a desperate search operation. Destroyers, battleships, and aircraft scoured the area for any sign of the missing sub. Then, the first clue appeared: an oil slick on the water's surface. Shortly after, small pieces of wreckage were found floating, including what was believed to be parts of K5's interior. There was no doubt anymore. HMS K5 had suffered a catastrophic accident beneath the waves. To this day, the exact cause of the disaster remains a mystery, but experts have proposed several possibilities. Hull failure due to extreme depths. The 5th of May have accidentally dived too deep, where the water pressure became too much for her structure. If this happened, the hull would have imploded within seconds, giving the crew no chance to escape. Mechanical malfunction. Given the history of engineering problems in K-class subs, K5 could have suffered a ballast tank failure, flooding, or a power loss that left her stranded at the bottom of the sea. Human error. With so many complex systems to manage, even a small mistake by the crew could have resulted in a failure to resurface. Collision with an unknown object. Some believe K5 could have struck an underwater obstruction or another ship, causing fatal damage. However, no records of a collision exist. Without survivors or a recovered wreck, the truth remains hidden in the depths of the Bay of Biscay. The loss of K5 was one of the last major accidents involving a K-class submarine. By the early 1920s, it was clear that these subs were too dangerous to continue using. The Royal Navy slowly phased them out, and by the late 1920s, the K-class submarines were no more. Today, HMS K5 and her 57 crewmen rest somewhere at the bottom of the Atlantic. No expedition has ever attempted to locate the wreck, and the submarine's exact fate remains one of history's maritime mysteries. The tragedy of K5 serves as a somber reminder of the dangers of early submarine warfare and the price paid by those who pioneered underwater combat. The loss of HMS K5 was not just a disaster, it was a lesson. It highlighted the limits of technology and the risks taken by early submariners. Today, submarines are among the most advanced vessels in naval warfare, but their history is built on the sacrifices of those who went before. What do you think happened to HMS K5? Could it have been a mechanical failure, or is there more to the story? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Echoes Untold. It helps us bring more lost stories back to life. This has been Echoes Untold, where history whispers, and we listen. Fact check note: all information in this video has been thoroughly researched using historical records, including submarine disasters by David Miller and the Royal Navy Archives. While no definitive wreck has been found, multiple sources confirm the K5 disaster remains one of the greatest submarine mysteries of the early